All right, thank you so much. A very good morning to all of you watching us live across the country. It's the 28th of April 2025 and we are beginning the conversation right now. It is Monday. Remember, this is the bigger conversation where you are supposed to get tuned to really embrace the power of the voice. Now, when we are starting the big conversation, there's so much to offer in regards to what we're going to communicate in the next few minutes. But allow me now to give you an insight. Remember, it's a coincidence that the schools are reopening today, and across the country, every child, every student is up to task to embrace the power of education. But what is your take on the state of education right here in the Republic? Even as a comment on that, we also get to embrace the power of the youth right here in the Republic. We've seen so much that is happening in the recent past and of course just a couple of months ago, and this has stricken the country in one or the other, both politically, economically and of course socially. Even as we embrace this particular conversation, remember, you can join us in the conversation at Look Up Television across all social media platforms, that is on Facebook and YouTube, and also our website www.lookuptv.co.ke. Now, the Youth Parliament of Kenya, YPK, which of course will be hosting them right here on the Morning Drift. If the conversation matters to you as well, remember you can also share with us your feedback on the power of the voice of the youth. And of course, because political space is taking shape and is on a bigger percentage, we'll get to embrace that as well. Even as the Parliament of the Youth now gives us the insight on the voice of the youth, what is your sentiment on the same? My name is Master Sukech, and of course, even as we embrace this engagement, remember, we not only have the power of the youth in this particular conversation, but what does the future holds towards all this? Without spoiling the taste, let us allow now our guest from YPK to introduce themselves. I think we'll start with the president.
I'm Otto Maxwell, the president of the Youth Parliament of Kenya.
All right, thank you. Nice to meet you. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, please, sir.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. My name is Pascal Benjamin.
Indeed.
I am the vice president of the Youth Parliament of Kenya, and also I am the head of strategic partnerships.
Indeed. All right, before we get much further, we are opening schools today.
Yeah.
What will be your take on the state of education, even as you embrace the conversation?
Yeah, it's quite a coincidence that we're having this show just at this time when the schools are reopening. And at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, we've also, this is an area that we are also looking keenly into. Remember, YPK is not just about issues to do with what is happening in the political climate, though politics actually does touch every part of our life.
Indeed.
And our lives. And so what our take at the moment concerning the education sector and what's happening there, recently it was decided that mathematics will become a compulsory subject for learners. And I think it's a good move for that to be maintained, because right now when you look at how the world is running, it's running on data. Data is what guides a lot of decisions that are made on every sector of our lives. And so when you look a little bit into it, you'll find out that mathematics plays a very important role in that. However, at some point it's been made clear that it will not be compulsory all through, but just at the beginning, the foundational stage of every learner. And I think that is very crucial. That's very important, because we need young people to have actually the numerical skills, because this can actually help them to build a foundation upon which they can be able to become analysts, crunching the numbers, because behind the data is how decisions are made. So that is our take at YPK, and I believe for that particular decision to be made, that it has to be compulsory at the foundational level. It's crucial.
All right, with the Pact, of course, on Education Matters, of course, President, do you think it was necessary for us to embrace now the competence-based curriculum out of the 844 system?
I think CBC is a good system. The only problem is the implementation of CBC.
Indeed.
And I think it came premature when the government was not quite ready to implement it.
Indeed.
But it's a good system because it will show that a student or a pupil at a younger age, you will get to understand their passion.
Indeed.
And at the CBC, we will be looking at talents, which pays a lot and can make somebody earn livelihood on their daily. So CBC is a good system, but we have to look into its implementation.
Right. Of course, I believe you are taking your people to school as well. You have some people that are going to school?
Yeah, I have siblings who are in campus.
Under 35. Now, this youth, of course, badge presents both opportunities and challenges for the country. Young people in Kenya face significant unemployment, with youth unemployment rates exceeding 60%. However, Kenyan youth also have a strong entrepreneurial spirit. Just in the near past, we had a particular reflection on this engagement for the youths. What do you think was the best way to initiate their voice, their participation in the political making processes?
I think the youth needs to come together. The youth has been divided. The older politicians use a divisive kind of tactics to divide the youth. So the youth should be very committed and united.
But they did come together. They did come together.
Yeah, they did come together, but there is a part that is not right. They come together, but there is a force that divides them along. And that's why you saw the Gen Z protest didn't go far. Because there was some influence and other external factors. One of the things also, tribalism in the country still play a role. So if we look into these factors, as you have said, the youth makes up to above 70% of the Kenyan population currently, and that can give them power to negotiate politically, socially, and economically. There are certain areas that the youth are of importance. That's the demographic. We have talked about the 70%. Also the political pressure. You can see now the youth are really demanding for accountability from the leaders. So if they are united together, they can get better accountability. Because if the leader is not performing, it is within their right mandate to send them home. So the youth should also take the ideas, register as voters, and make the right decision.
Of course, yesterday I was listening to a conversation with the Nairobi Senator Sifuna, and says that, of course, if you embrace now getting together and, of course, forming an alignment, you need to be in a particular political party for you to embrace your voice, let your voice be heard. Because if you are alone, it becomes very hard for you to get the point home.
I think that's a fallacy. Not everybody can be in a political party. The youth, we have youth organizations. So these youth organizations also have voices. We have parastatals, rather organizations that supports youth agenda. They guide these youths. So it's not a must that you must be in a political party to drive your agenda. But part of the youth should be in that political party to be on the table so that they take what is there, bring it and share it with the rest of the youth.
All right, bringing it to the table, of course. Remember, earlier on, they had mentioned about the voiceless, leaderless, and partyless. What will be your take on that? Because Kiongozi is saying about a particular engagement that they need to get together and raise a voice. But now, how can we shape them to have a particular leader who will take charge and, of course, full control towards all this?
I think when the young people were talking about being partless, voiceless, tribeless, and all that, it was at that particular moment it was necessary for it to be that way. Because you understand, during the 2024 finance budget protest, what started as a very peaceful demonstration to actually voice the concerns concerning the high rate of taxation within the budget, we ended up having a couple of days later, it became chaotic because, and I tend to believe that that was strategic, because that united force with unity without chaos was actually going to become a very serious force. And you also understand that the aftermath of that particular protest created a particular awareness around the country. People right now are very woke. People are aware of what is happening if it is reading too much into, to identify where are we being misled, where are we being lied to, how do we get things right. However, moving forward at this particular point, I think it's very important, as the president has said, young people need to rally together, come together, because you can only have negotiating ability when you are united. That unity together, you can try to imagine if we have a following of about 5 million young people speaking as one voice. That's enough voice to actually to get our negotiation power on the table. So it's very important for us to, at this particular moment, moving henceforth, to be able to actually come together with one voice and charter the way forward for ourselves. But at this particular moment, I've been speaking to the president about the current situation that is happening, and I can say that we do actually have a gap. Why? Because at the aftermath of the Gen Z protest, we had some key figures who were rising up, and they were actually leading the voice of the young people. However, as we've been following up, you realize that they have started taking some specific direction.
Is that a strategy?
Yes, it's actually strategic. And the problem that we have in this particular country is we lack young leaders who are actually carrying the burden for the fellow young people. I think many who step up are actually looking for opportunities to pursue their self-interest.
And which I feel it's very important, because why fight for the entire nation whereas you have so many problems at your back?
Okay, if that is what will have happened long time ago, right now we wouldn't actually be where we are as a country. If I take you back, remember the fight for independence.
Indeed.
The famous, was it 9 or 12? The famous 11. Those guys that actually went out and, through the Mau Mau revolution to make sure that Kenya was liberated. Look at the likes of Tom Mboya, who actually even gave their lives, died quite young, but they actually were out there to make sure that we have a country that is liberated. So if we continue at this particular space pursuing selfish interest, personal interest, then we do not actually have a country. It takes us to carry a burden for the rest of the people to be able. If you show the other people that you do actually care for them, they will follow you without you needing to tell them, follow me.
Follow me.
Yeah.
Indeed, right. Mr. President, of course, even as the Vice says about bridging the gap and, of course, embracing the fact that there is the political space that is coming in, I asked a question in regards to this particular space. There is these youths that are coming in, very handy and very powerful, and of course let people know me that I exist. But now we are talking about the selfish interest as well. There is this space that comes with it. They are fighting for people, but they also have their own problems, massive problems that are coming in. And of course, how will we be able to understand that indeed, even as we select you, you are a particular leader that will take us to the throne?
Mr. Okech, there's a problem, and there's a big problem. The problem here is selfishness.
Okay.
People are really fighting to get famous, and they're too selfish that they want me, I want myself. The late Pope, in some of his statements, said that the sun doesn't shine to itself. The rainfall doesn't fall into itself.
Indeed.
It means that you must fight for somebody to benefit.
Indeed.
And the best thing for you to live is to make another person happy.
Of course.
You will be the most happy person. Now, the gap you are seeing here, there is also a challenge that there are some external factors.
Indeed.
Like somebody come up, I'll not mention names, they come up very vague and strong to advocate for youth rights, youth space, but the influence comes with corruption that we have had some alleged. The issue comes with threats. So somebody reach a point that if they don't have a backup from the fellow youth, they give up.
Indeed.
Then they give in to those temptations. So indeed there is a gap between the ruling class and the youth. But that gap can only be bridged if these youth really realize their potential.
Indeed.
If they really realize that they have the power, they have the force. Remember, as we have talked about the demographic of the youth, we have talked about the political pressure that they have.
Indeed.
There is economic engine that they have, like Hustler Fund, for example.
Indeed.
The people who have flooded that setup are the youth. FinTech is in place. We have the agriculture, the agri-tech, it's the youth, right? And even the creativity, the creative setup where we have the music, content creation, it's the youth.
Of course.
So the youth have got the power. And also they have the power of making a social change through advocacy, what we are doing also at the Youth Parliament of Kenya to promote good governance. We look into all this space to ensure that we reach our goal.
Of course.
And there's something I also want to add on that aspect about selfishness. I think many people start at the right with the right intention.
Indeed.
However, there is also something that is happening. We, the young people, are also the enemy of our own selves. You will find out that at the beginning, someone has got very good intention to actually advocate for the fellow young people. But as time goes by, you see the same young people trying to criticize that particular individual. maybe in the way they are trying to do the thing, and they actually lack the support that they need to do that. So eventually, when someone feels like I'm putting too much effort into this and I'm not getting the kind of support that I need, that is the beginning of them looking out for themselves. So until we get to a point that we will not, when someone steps up and says, I want to actually charter a course for the rest of the young people to follow, if we don't support that particular person, they'll put in their efforts, their energy, their own resources up to a particular point. When they see they don't have that kind of a support, then they will begin to fight for their own interests. Yeah.
All right. And of course, the interest comes in to maybe, of course, to shape some political grievances or political desires that they have. But why are we embracing, of course, political issues? Why not only channel these particular efforts towards many other things that will now push a standard or a sustainable development towards achieving their own goals? And of course, even as we embrace that, we have now the economic empowerment towards this particular youth. The same effort they use towards political taste, why not push the same towards economic?
Thank you for asking that question. Actually, at the Youth Parliament of Kenya, we are not all about pushing to get into political spaces. For us, we have young people that actually do have the desire to get into those particular spaces. And if they're actually under our umbrella and they have desires to actually go that way, we have they have our full support when it comes to that, because only until we get the right young leaders who have a passion, youth empowerment, then we can actually begin to see the light come at the end of the tunnel. Groomed well enough to actually be able to advocate in a very better way at that particular space. That is what we are lacking in our country. In fact, sorry to mention this, but I think it comes in at a very important time. Remember the play that Butere Girls has actually brought a lot of issues about. That is one way on how that particular conversation is chartered. And this is happening at high school, whereby young people are using drama, skit, plays, and all that to be able to bring awareness to the rest of the community and the nation at large on very important and pertinent issues that is affecting our country. But did you see what happened? Those backlash that came again. And so, as the president is saying, there is need for the government to embrace that. The government that actually comes against such a scenario is one that is scared of something. And the question is, what exactly is it scared about?
Indeed. What exactly is that's the best question you can ask of us this morning. And even as we embrace Monday, I think the entire nation will now continue the same question. And as we deliberate on that, Mr. President, of course we can't forget the fact that your organization OIPK has heard about the name Kasongo, and of course the president must go, which now results to governance. Of course, to bring the point home and to address all these issues, how will now the youths from the younger age you had stated to an adult level to embrace this particular governance that is now bringing a lot of clash towards the ruling design of a particular nation? So how will the youths now come in handy to shape the governance of a particular country?
I think the youth can take the role of putting the government in check, and they should be in a position to have dialogue with their leaders, say where they feel that their rights are infringed, feel where their freedom is being tampered with, and where they feel that the service is not being delivered to them appropriately as it should be. But I will tell the government of the day that the best way to rule or run a country is to obey and respect the laws of the land. Because if at all we were respecting the laws of the land, we could not be having the government being taken to court because of certain issues that they have passed certain resolutions. So respecting the rule of law will ensure that every right is protected and the youth will get their space. Remember that the youth has even the 30% that they should be given. Look at the parastatals. Leadership is not just about being in parliament. Leadership is even in the companies. If you look at the parastatal, what the percentage that the youth have, they need to have at least 30%, but they don't have it. You get somebody like the past administration, somebody like Mudia Wori was given an opportunity to serve in the youth space at 91. So that's something that should not be even near the face. So we need to fight for those rights, but we can't fight on those rights on the streets. That's where our YPK comes in. We have to sit down, identify the areas, involve and engage our leaders, and have a dialogue with them. And tell them the right thing that we feel as the youth should be done. Yes.
They want to protect them. They want to address their issues. But now they feel that the youths are still young and are still growing. So if we give them positions of power, there might be a crisis at the end of the tunnel.
They feel that the youth are still young because they have not been trained. The Vice President has just said that when we are engaging the European Youth Parliament, a young person as early as 16 years is able to articulate issues.
Indeed.
So when you tell us that the youth are still young, then when will they be of enough age to be able to articulate issues?
Amazing.
Right? When they are old at 80, I don't think so.
Indeed.
So we need to engage these people as young
early as now.
As 16.
Indeed.
Going all the way when this person is ripe, even the presidency age limit should be lowered. Because I think with the technology and the advancement at the 21st century, the knowledge that the youth have is marvelous.
Indeed.
So we should not undermine and look down upon them. These people are creative enough. You can see in the space. These people are clever enough, and most of the good things that has come out come from them. It's only that people don't take them seriously.
Indeed.
On the gap of their
right. I know the Vice President, of course, wants to give some insight as well, but allow me now to push you to the next session, of course, as we embrace that particular conversation. Now, how can the Youth Parliament encourage young Kenyans to run for political office and actively participate in the democratic processes? When we get back to that particular conversation, we'll get an insight on the same. But meanwhile, what is the voice of the youths right here in the Republic? Does it make sense? And even as we embrace that, we'll get an understanding on the challenges and how to address the fact that the youths are still existing in the Republic. Don't go too far. This is the Morning Drift. Taarifa zinapochipuka na kutufikia papa hapa kwenye makao makuu ya chumba cha habari cha runinga ya Lookup, kwenye taifa, kwenye serikali, kwenye bunge, tunajitosa hadi kwenye sauti ya wenyeji ili kupata tu maoni ya wenyeji kuhusu masuala haya yanayochipuka.
Maana hii kitu inaenda kuumiza Mkenya kwa tax.
Hakuna kitu tunafurahia. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Sisi tunaumia, si ati tunaumia ile ya kiukweli. Juu maisha ni ngumu.
Na bila shaka tunapata maoni yao ili sauti yao ipate kusikika. Na watasema hili, waseme lile, watasema hiki na waseme kile, almuradi sauti yao ipate taa.
Mambo ya mafuta tena imekuwa ni changamoto zaidi kwa kila mtu wa bodaboda.
Uchumi
Hawa sasa ndio wamefinywa zaidi man.
Mtazamaji, hii ni bunge la wenyeji.
Feeling like unwinding and calming your nerves down after a long week? I'm Nika Kala. Join me on the Nakala Report this coming Friday and every Friday at 8 p.m. only on Lookup TV. At Nakala Report, we turn the insanity into sanity and sanity into insanity.
How do you start your engine when it is time to drive? Are you a first-time car buyer or want to upgrade your wheels? Do you know your car brand? Is it powerful, stylish, or does it turn heads as you drive past? Well, let's get to know all about wheels on the Daily Drive Show with Ian Otieno as we review all automobiles inclusively, specs on powertrain, interior, exterior, and pricing. Get on board with Ian Otieno for a dose of automobile scene on Lookup TV. outlook of the economy, then you have to speak to the walls and gears of the integral businesses in the country.
And I want to be able to make the youths and everybody coming up in Kenya know that this is here locally.
Men and women in the thick of the bust of markets rising and falling, fighting to make their business decisions stick.
I've always lived in my career that I can never be late.
You need to train by yourself. You need to practice by yourself. Then from there you can compose yourself and give kind of services like this.
On season 2 of the Captain's Arena, we seek the inside of the minds, predict the shift in the markets, get inspiration to start and make sense of it all.
Just watch what everybody else is doing and just make sure you're giving back to the society.
Oof. This is the Captain's Arena.
All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for continuing to watch the Morning Drift right here at Look Up Television. We were embracing a particular conversation, and I believe, let me just shoot it. You were to add something before we went for a break.
Yeah. When we were talking about the leaders in power,
Indeed.
giving young people the space to be able to actually be groomed to become the leaders, because many times, of course, the statement young people are the leaders of tomorrow, but you cannot become a leader of tomorrow if you've not been prepared.
Indeed.
And I think there is also I think I can look it from another angle. The reason why some of the leaders who are in power tend to think that young people are not yet ready. It's because you know, young people are impressionable.
Indeed.
They are energetic, and that kind of energy, if it's not cultivated well and channeled in the positive direction, it can also be chaotic.
Indeed.
And I think that is
That is what the president or the governance feels like.
Exactly. So, but then again, that is what they believe, which I partly agree can actually be chaotic. However, they leaders themselves also need to be able to embrace and create that particular platform so that they can groom these young leaders and channel that energy in the best way possible. But that is not exactly what is happening. And what we have more is trying to actually block, block and not create a conducive environment for such opportunities to actually happen.
I appreciate they've been welcomed by the government. They've been welcomed by the parties that are in that state. But the problem now comes in. Of course, this grooming takes more time. Perhaps maybe when they are now ready to establish, they are in particular ages, as what President was mentioning about now, ages that FICO administer. What will be your take on that?
Yes. Now here's also the thing. What grooming most of these leaders actually tend to think is to take a young person and let them be under you for a very long time without even giving them an opportunity to be able to let's say even step out and represent and be a voice for these particular parties. We've seen, and what usually happens is what is happening is they're having their wings clipped in specific areas that they actually were really good at. And this is what I'm afraid about our friend Kasmuel himself within that particular space. But we have seen a lot of young people that have been in that particular wing for a very long time. Right at this particular moment, you understand that there is Babu Wino is taking a specific direction, but he has been there as a young person, and I believe by the time he was joining, he was quite very vocal. You remember his days in campus as the student leader. That guy was fire. We believed that he was actually going somewhere. He still have that fire, but I believe, having been under that particular need, there is something that they are listened to, the ideas that they have, and they also get to be directed with wise counsel from the people that have been there in that space for a long time. Then mashing this together, you get a young person who is now being given an opportunity to actually step on platforms and represent, speak on behalf. That is how grooming should be, but that's not what's happening.
Indeed. I think also we should address the particular grooming on unemployment. Of course, they are groomed with unemployment day in, day out.
You know, before we just go to the unemployment, which is very still remains at a higher state, within the political parties and within the constitution, which was formed out of the merged political parties, UDA being the major stakeholder, they have the youth wing within their political parties. But we have never seen these youths coming out and addressing issues of importance to their fellow youths. So we don't know whether they have been given a space in that wing that is there. We don't know whether they exist, or if they are existing,
we only get to
speak about it.
We only get to hear them when it is a political climate time, when things are
and when they are most needed to propel certain agenda.
When needed.
Right. Now, when we come to that issue of just ask of unemployment, of course the government cannot employ everybody, but the government should embrace other sectors. The private sector should be embraced. The high taxation should be moderated, and the youth stake in the creation of employment. Their initiatives should be supported. By the way, the youth can create employment for themselves, but the capital inquiry or acquisition of capital should also be a matter of importance. You look at, we have things like Uwezo Fund, we have Youth Fund, I guess, but from what we get from our youth is that getting these funds is very difficult. So either there are people who are not just willing to support, the fund is given, but they are not just willing to support, or they lengthen the process, if you understand what I mean. So we have to look into these issues and harmonize and ensure that they have their space and can access capital to start something.
All right, Vice, what's itching?
I did actually represent the Youth Parliament of Kenya.
Amazing.
His Excellency knows, in one of the forums that we have actually seen. The government through the National Youth Council and Ministry of Youth Affairs and Creative Economy, they are currently moving around different counties. There is an official launch of that particular Wazo Engagement Forum is what they call it. And when you say it's a dialogue, it means we are going to have an engagement. I talk about something, you respond to it, we agree, we disagree, and at the end of the day, we come out with a decision. But when you look into these forums, what I have seen is more about informational. However, it is quite interesting. I was getting to hear from the young people that have actually interacted with this particular initiative that have been mentioned. For instance, there is a Youth Enterprise Fund. How many beneficiaries? We could hear the disbursement that has been done for the last 8 years. We are talking about billions of shillings, close to almost 26 billion shillings for the last 8 years. But it was quite surprising. I was doing research and I came across Kipra. Kipra had done some analysis of how effective this particular funding is. Can you imagine that there is a particular criteria or requirement that is made for young people to be able to access these funds? I'm not saying they are not accessible, they are accessible. However, there are ways on how these funds are not actually being efficient for the very reason they were created for. How can one individual receive 6 million shillings disbursement to start a project or whatever, when the minimum that is required for any individual is 150,000? Yeah. So how do we explain someone getting 6 million shillings and yet the specific information is one person cannot get more than 150,000? So there is something that is not quite done well with these particular resources. And these resources, if they are done well, and imagine how many people will benefit from the 6 million, which is going to one person. If it has gone to different individuals, then that can actually replicate and opportunities that will be created. Once I have something running and the rule, regulations, taxations are fair on my business, I can create 3 more spaces and employ 3 more people. So what we are trying to say is, the government, with the pressure that is coming from the citizens, it's it has got itself into a space where it's thinking we need to create this particular employment. It's not up to them to create all the opportunities for employment for young people. They also need to be able to partner with startups, young people who have innovative ideas to be able to actually create these particular jobs. But what is happening right now? We are
ideas.
Exactly. and you know, there is also something we call bureaucracies. These particular offices that have got these funds available for young people to go and access. By the time you get there, it will be 9 months later, and you've spent more money trying to get access to that particular fund. And by the time you are being informed, okay, your 50,000 is ready, you have already spent more than 50,000 to just get that 50,000. Young people get into debts in the process of acquiring those particular funds, and even discouragement. Now, more worse of it all, and this is the situation of many young people out there, is their dreams and hopes are dead. They are shattered. The moment that dies, these young people start getting into mental issues. Right now, there comes in drug and substance abuse. There comes in issues of suicidal thoughts and all that. And eventually, do you know how difficult it is, Okech, to try and revive a young person who has their hope completely smashed and died? You cannot get that particular young person, because the process of getting that person to become a useful individual is you'll have to take them through rehabilitation, which is another resources being wasted into that.
Vice, you speak with so much pain, and seems that the crisis may not come to an end. And as you say, Mr. President, earlier on we had mentioned about so many youths are going to outside countries to seek for employment, which of course so many youths, and many of them would be lucky enough to get these spaces, and many of them now will not get a chance at all. So what will be your take? This particular crisis on unemployment, will it ever come to an end?
You know, countries like India, for example, they can take their students to learn something from another country, but they will come to implement in their country. I believe that we should create a space for us here. Even if you are taking somebody to go and study abroad, for example, they should come and bring that knowledge here. I believe youths are social entrepreneurs, and they can create their own employment if given the space. There is one thing that I really want to advocate for. The youths should not only be used as voters, they should be used as policy shapers. In that, when they are voting, they can also take part in policy making. The decisions that are made, that the people understand where the shoe you understand. Yeah, so when they understand that most, if they are given a space in the policy making, they can reintroduce things that can be favorable to them. These youth go outside to look for employment because at home there is no space. These spaces are not created. And I think the government can do much more to ensure that we have these spaces.
Now, I'm wondering about something, Mr. Okech, and Your Excellency. We have so many young people that have actually gone out there to, get the best of the education that they can get. But many of them do not actually come back. So we can still send them out there, and coming back is our desire that they come so that we can input into this country to take it to the next level. So the question now remains, why are they not willing to come back? That is exactly where our problem is.
Wacha nene nipige ya zangu zote nisirudi hapa Kenya.
Yeah, there is quite a very interesting young man. His name is Bob Mwiti. He's a friend of mine, and I have followed him for a while. He started a program called the Kenya Airlift Program. Right now, it actually did quite well, and right now it's now spread across Africa. But what Mwiti is doing with his program is that he's getting young people who are into business, intelligence, and technology, who have done bachelors and they want to go and do their masters or something like that. So they are cushioned somehow until they are given a particular opportunity. So this particular organization that Bob Mwiti is running creates that particular process very smoothless for them. But I have seen already most of those people that graduate from them, they settle in the US and begin working there than coming back home. There is a reason why that is happening, and that is what we seek to advocate and change.
These people don't come back home because home is chaotic.
It's chaotic.
They don't have the opportunity and the space that they need.
Indeed.
Even if you look at the payment, everybody is underpaid.
Indeed.
Depending on what you are doing. So somebody will rather stay there, gets paid and earn a living, than coming here and get underpaid.
Indeed.
So this is what we are talking about, these policies. We should have standardization.
Indeed.
I'm even thinking of, why can't the parliament, the Kenyan parliament, the National Assembly and the Senate, why can they have the bills that standardizes even the salaries of people? We have the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, but I don't think they're doing much. Most of the time I see they are just focused on politicians' salary increment, the ones sitting in the parliament. But why can't we have, like now they have come with CBC, they have categorized the paths that the people will be taking. Why can't they come also with the factor that when you go to school, you are going to study engineering course, for example. This is what you expect out of it. Let it be a standard. You are a teacher. You are going to take this particular course. I'm saying this because you realize the people who earn even 50,000 and above in this country, the young people, are very few. Most people earn 10,000, 15, 25. With this economy, they can't even sustain themselves. Somebody living in Pipeline, for example, going to work in Haligam or Yaya or Westlands, they will use roughly 6,000 on the road, as fare. Assume this person is staying in a single room, paying about 4,500. Add that to the food this person eats. The salary is 15,000. Barely this person cannot even save.
And remember, they have parents back at home who are also looking up to them.
The black tax you talked about.
Black tax.
You know, now, these people, I think there must be a standardization of how people can be remunerated in different sectors. So that when you take a path, you just understand it. So you make a decision. This is the main reason why most of the people don't come back. Somebody will rather go and wash utensils in the US and earn than an engineer sitting somewhere.
Indeed. Indeed. And as you address that, now we'll get to the bottom line, of course, to understand now Kenya's parliament, the youth parliament of Kenya, and as well to just shape a conversation on now your vision, your mission, and what the future holds. And of course, even do you think the parliament, the National Assembly is confused, and even as you speak about the Senate and above all. So as we embrace that, a question also is asked about what do you think is the biggest barrier to youth political participation? We had answered that, and you've mentioned actually how to overcome it. And of course, how is the youth parliament that is of Kenya addressing issues like gender inequality, sexual harassment, and youth-related violence in the Kenyan society? I think, Mr. President, you'll answer that as Vice prepares for what is the youth parliament's role in tackling corruption in Kenya, especially as it impacts young people and their future prospects. Let's begin with Mr. President.
I will start with the question that we had partly answered. One of the major barriers to the youth in participating in the political space, one is capital. Somebody will come with a V8, for example. A youth cannot afford that at this particular time. So the funding to the youth is minimal. They don't have money, and this is what the public look up to. I think the public should change their mindset and say that we want leaders. We don't want to be bought. We don't want to be corrupted for us to vote somebody in. If you see a potential young man whom you think has got a vision, I think that person should be given support. So finances is one of the biggest barriers to the youth.
All right. So talk to us about the addressing issues like gender inequality, sexual harassment, and youth-related violence in Kenyan society. Even as we prepare for that, of course, we are left with less than 5 minutes to wind up the conversation. Vice, of course, your question will be, what is the youth parliament's role in tackling corruption in Kenya, especially as it impacts young people and their future prospects? Please.
I will start with gender inequality. What we are trying to embrace, especially at YPK, is that we have a structure at YPK, and we are trying to embrace to see, one, we urge the lesser gender. In that space, the lesser gender is the female gender. One of the things we have discovered that most of them has not this momentum, they fear to speed up to the role. Very few ladies are vague and focused. Majority of them fear, they have got some fear, that those are men's role. So at YPK we are trying to encourage that take part, participate. Then we realized that for us to get this, especially for our youth governors in our structure, we made it that if a youth governor is a male, then the deputy be a female.
Indeed.
If the youth governor is a female, then the deputy be a male. We're trying to bridge that gap.
Indeed.
So the same can be applied out here in the larger space, on the larger spectrum, such that we get that equality. If these two voices are there together, then you will realize that even the younger ladies who are coming up or the young men who are coming up will have that freedom to participate.
All right. So, then of course the corruption thing, which is a menace right in the Republic.
Oh my God, that is quite. I can say that's a monster that we have, and you can see we have had a lot of individuals actually step forward and try to address that particular issue, but it's a long shot still. My goodness, I don't know if you guys were able to come across this particular article, and also there was an interview of the current Busia Senator, Okia Omtata. He did actually audit the government debt for the last, I think, about 10 years or so. And it was quite an informative analysis that he made. And I have seen him taking, the former president and the current president to court for spiking the Kenya's debt to more than 7 trillion shillings. It should have only been 2 trillion shillings, which, according to him, will have paid this particular debt long time ago. But you can see at the current moment,
the sources says it is somewhere around 11 trillion.
Yeah. So at the current moment, you can see there is a lot of back and forth when it comes to our justice system to try to actually deliver the justice that we need in this particular country. For us, we are how we are preparing and charting the way forward. Okay, we have created these particular opportunities for young people to come into the Youth Parliament of Kenya and be able to be prepared, groomed, and become the leaders that we desire. However, as we are doing that, there's some particular kind of things that we are dealing with. Number one, the issues of integrity, honesty, accountability are very core to us. And what we are doing is that once you are given an opportunity in the Youth Parliament of Kenya as a leader, we are actually very serious about your performance. We want to see how much are you actually doing in the community or the role that you've been given. So there is a scorecard. If you are not able to meet that, we have conversations around it. But at the end of the day, when we see you are not actually delivering and you have no intentions to actually deliver according to what we are aiming at, then we will ask you to actually give space for someone that can be able to do that. Now, let's take about a situation whereby a young person within that particular role that they've been given has ended up actually, of course we'll get opportunities of funding that will come into the organization and all that. We'll be putting money into some of our activities that we are running. Say someone misuses the resources that they have been entrusted to run the mission of the organization. We have a structure within our own system to keep these particular people accountable. And once we deal with it internally, because we have a justice system within our framework. Once we deal with that, and this particular individual, we feel we need to take him even to the main, the Kenya's judicial system. We are able to do that. What we are trying to do is this: we are trying to instill the kind of discipline that we expect of a future leader within our structure. So once we are able to do this, we are only saying this is how we can be able to achieve what we are looking for in the future. Leaders who are credible, accountable, full of integrity, and honest leaders.
And of course, honest. Honest is the best one, of course. I believe you two will have more chance to really elaborate on further towards the particular conversation on the voices of the youth. But because of time, allow me now to just cut you short to that particular conversation. Then we shall schedule another one to have a broader aspect on what we shall discuss in the near future. All right. So we are hosting His Excellency Engineer Mwaka Maxwell, the President of Youth Parliament of Kenya, and of course Benjamin Pascal, Vice President and Head of Strategic Partnership, the Youth Parliament of Kenya. Thank you so much for creating time for us and impacting lives towards the voices of the youth.
Nothing is for the youth without the youth.
Amazing.
Let them unite.
Powerful. Thank you so much. I believe that is the only way we can wind up this session. This is the Morning Drift, and it is Monday. We have made it happen, the big conversation. See you tomorrow as we now impact our health to really understand what's the shape looking like. This is the Morning Drift. My name is Moses Cage. My director has been King Dantimax.